Yo, this is your guy, Ant Dunstan, and I am one half of the YoFantasyFootball podcast. Today, I'm going to be bringing you my top 12 running back rankings, and hopefully my insight can better equip you in your 2020 Fantasy Football League drafts. So tune in, and hopefully you'll enjoy the show. This is Yo Fantasy Football. So before we jump into my rankings, I like to give you guys some tips and pointers that I like to use when drafting running backs in my fantasy football leagues. My strategy varies a little bit depending on the type of league and format that you're playing in. For PPR, maybe a little bit different than your standard non-PPR leagues. Non-PPR, I like to go with guys that are going to get sheer volume, like a Derrick Henry, and also guys that are going to get a lot of touches in the goal line area, like Derrick Henry. So, long story short, if you're going to be drafting in your standard leagues, just get Derrick Henry. But going into PPR, I like to get dual threat type running backs. So guys like Saquon Barkley, Alvin Kamara, Austin Ekeler, and how could we forget Christian McCaffrey. These are going to be guys that are going to give you great production on the ground, as well as being involved in the passing game. So there you have it, and I hope that helps. Now let's get into my rankings. At the number 1 pick, I'm going with Christian McCaffrey with the Carolina Panthers. Christian McCaffrey is the real deal, ladies and gentlemen. Last year, he gave you over 1,000 yards rushing and over 1,000 yards receiving. He will, if he doesn't replicate that production from last year, he will still finish as a top 2 or 3 running back, barring any injuries. Christian McCaffrey is also a goal line and also a touchdown hoarder. Last year, he gave you over 15 touchdowns, 19 total, 15 on the ground, and 4 through the air. Christian McCaffrey, again, is no slouch. And back to my strategy, he will give you a high target player at the running back position. Last year, McCaffrey gave you 142 targets, completing 116 of those. That's all you can ask for out of your running back. Let's get into my number 2 pick. Another guy who will be a dual threat for you will be Saquon Barkley with the New York Giants. Saquon Barkley last year also gave you over 1,000 yards rushing and over 400 yards receiving, and he only played 13 games, finishing the year with 8 total touchdowns. Barkley, another guy who was targeted over 70 times last year, giving you over 50 receptions. Those are the type of backs you want to look for heading into your drafts. At the number 3 pick on my list, who isn't so much of a dual threat, but it is Derrick Henry with the Tennessee Titans. And although this guy won't do much for you through the air, I love Derrick Henry, and for one reason only. He is the offense in Tennessee. We all seen last year what they are trying to do, and they want to predicate their success in their game on the run. It opens up A.J. Brown, it makes things easier for Ryan Tannehill, and then also in the goal line area, just an easy touchdown. My guy Derrick Henry last year gave you over 1,500 rushing yards, finishing as the rush leader. He is also a guy who will, again, get you plenty of touchdowns, giving you 18 on the year. 16 of those came by way of ground. And for a guy that doesn't do much in the passing game, I'll take 2 touchdowns on the year any year in the calendar. Let's go to my number 4 pick, and that's going to be Ezekiel Elliott. Zeke is going to eat. Stamp that. My guy Zeke is another guy that also finished over 1,000 rushing yards on the year, totaling 1,357 last year. Another guy who is a dual threat, very involved in the passing game, giving you over 70 targets, finishing the year with 54 receptions. My guy Zeke also is another guy who's going to find the end zone, giving you a total of 14 touchdowns last year. 12 of those are rushing, 2 of those through the air. Zeke will be a high quality pick for you guys, and again, he's coming off my board at number 4. Number 5 running back, I'm going to go with Dalvin Cook out of Minnesota. Dalvin Cook, let's not forget, was on pace to be rushing leader last year until he battled with some injuries, which he seems to battle almost every year. But barring injury, once again, this guy will finish as a top 5 back if he's healthy. Last year, Dalvin Cook is another guy over 1,000 yards rushing, finishing the year at 1,135. He's also a guy that's very active in the reception game, although he didn't give you any receiving touchdowns last year. But he gave you 519 reception yards. Also another guy that was targeted over 60 times, catching 53 of those. So another dual threat guy, barring injury. Let's go to my number 6 pick. I'm going to go with Nick Chubb. More similar to Derrick Henry, this is a power back, and there is a little bit of, confusion there with Kareem Hunt doing as well as he did. I mean, it is Kareem Hunt, but Kevin Stefanski is there. Odell Beckham is looking for a huge year. Landry. I think Kevin Stefanski, as we seen last year in Minnesota, is going to predicate the Cleveland offense on the run, and I think Chubb should be the lead guy opening up the season. So, giving you some of the stats, Chubb finished last year with over 1,400 rush yards, and again, another guy who found the end zone. Not on such a high clip as those other guys I named, but he did give you 8 rushing touchdowns last year, but he didn't give you any receiving touchdowns, so he finished the year with 8 total touchdowns. But he's a guy I like, and again, he should be one of the main guys in that offense, and I'm expecting big things out of Nick Chubb. At number 7 on my list, I'm going with Alvin Kamara. Now, I know there's some confusion now with his contract, but again, I made these rankings prior to today, September 1st. But I love Alvin Kamara. He is one of those guys that will be a dual threat, and if he does stay with the Saints, I think he's pretty comfortable with that offense, and with weapons like Michael Thomas, Drew Brees, Taysom Hill, this is very explosive. One thing that does alarm me a little bit, though, is Taysom Hill. For some reason, Sean Payton loves to get this guy the ball in the goal line area, which I think takes away from some of the touchdown touches that Kamara could get, as well as Michael Thomas, who just pretty much demands the ball at all times. But giving you some of the stats, Kamara gave you over 95 targets last year at the running back position, catching 81 of those. That is huge out of the running back position. He also gave you over 700 yards rushing and over 500 yards receiving, finishing the year with 6 touchdowns. But again, he's another guy who didn't play a full season, totaling only 14 games on the season. Expect big things out of Kamara, and he is coming off at the number 7 pick on my board for running backs. Number 8, RIP Kobe. We're going to go with TG3. I think Todd Gurley with the Atlanta Falcons is going to have a huge comeback year. He's going back home. He's from the Atlanta area. He played at Georgia. I think he has a huge chip on his shoulder from last year for how the Rams did him, and I think he has something to prove. But let alone all of those things, this will be another very explosive offense with one of the best receivers in the league, Julio Jones. We also have Matt Ryan, Hayden Hurst was a pickup, Russell Gage, and everyone is expecting big things out of Calvin Ridley this year. So with all of those weapons, I do expect Todd Gurley to have a huge year. And the coach is also committed to giving him 15 to 25 carries per game. Me personally, I hope it's closer to that 25, as you probably do too. But again, 15 to 25 touches with the skill set that Gurley has, barring injury, this should be a great pickup for anybody this year. He may even be a sleeper for me personally, but I get the people that are concerned about his injury-riddled past. But just to give you some of the numbers, over 800 yards last year. He was pretty involved in the reception game with the Rams, giving you almost 50 targets at 49, completing 31 of those. But again, Gurley's one of those guys who is going to find the end zone, totaling 14 touchdowns last year, 12 on the ground and another 2 through the air. I like Todd Gurley at number 8 on my list, and we'll go into number 9 on that note. Let's shout out my guy, Melvin Gordon, who will have a role in Denver. Now, I get it. Some of you guys are a little concerned about Phillip Lindsay and that RBBC situation out there in Denver. But let's not forget, they paid Melvin Gordon, so Melvin Gordon will get the ball. And if this guy does see volume, we all know the damage he could do. I mean, only in 12 games last year, he gave you 600 yards, over 600 yards rushing, and he gave you another, 296 through the air. But that's not my biggest concern about him. Again, he gave you 55 targets, and he caught over 40 of those. So those add up in PPR, those receptions. But Melvin Gordon is another guy who will find the end zone. Last year, Melvin Gordon finished the year with 9 touchdowns, 8 on the ground and 1 through the air. He's another guy that I really like and could be a sleeper pick, but I do get the concern there with Phillip Lindsay. But again, I like the talent here. Guy got paid some money, and I think he's ready to perform. At my number 10 pick, I'm going with Josh Jacobs with the Las Vegas Raiders. That was pretty weird to say, being a guy that lives in Oakland. I'm used to calling them the Oakland Raiders. But nevertheless, this should be another good season for Josh Jacobs. He had a great rookie campaign last year. I think Gruden does want to establish the run to make things easier for Derek Carr. And he gave you over 1,000 yards last year in only 13 games. Now, Josh Jacobs won't give you much in the reception game, but he's even come out and said that he wants to get at least 60 receptions this year. I think that's a bit a stretch, but that's better than the 20 he gave you last year. So if he can give me somewhere in that 30, 40 range to go along with his production on the ground, I'll take that any day of the week. Josh Jacobs also finished the year with 7 touchdowns last year. Heading into my next pick, we will go with number 11, and that will be Austin Ekeler. Now, I do have a little bit concerned there, him being the lead back without Melvin Gordon for a full season, but who knows? He did pretty well last year. He also does give you plenty of receptions. Another one of those dual running back type of players. He gave you over 100 targets last year at the running back position, and he caught 92 of them. That is awesome out of your running back position. Again, Tyrod Taylor is a new addition this year, and Phillip Rivers is gone. But I think that only adds to the case for Austin Ekeler, because we know Tyrod Taylor, if he isn't trying to get up out of there, he's trying to dump it off. So hopefully that pays off for Ekeler, and he finished off on my list at number 11. And rounding out my list, I'm going with Joe Mixon at number 12 with the Cincinnati Bengals. Joe Mixon is going to be a good player, and I know this will sound weird, in an explosive offense out there in Cincinnati. Yes, explosive offense, Cincinnati Bengals. I think Zach Taylor in his second year is going to get in his rhythm, get these players in a good rhythm with that air raid type system. We have the emergence of Tyler Boyd, hopefully a healthy AJ Green, and then we have a very motivated rookie quarterback in Joe Burrow. This will be a fun offense this year, guys. Do not sleep, and I think Joe Mixon will play a key role. He gave you over 1,000 yards rushing last year, about 5 touchdowns, and will be very involved in the passing game. So that's my top 12, guys. I hope that my list helps you on your draft day, and good luck.